Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Mowing After Dark here on the College Football Mafia Network. Uh, Unfortunately, Rock could not be here tonight. Um, Rock had a family issue he had to take care of last week, and he had some traveling to do. And as soon as he got done traveling, he came down with the coof. He got the positive test on the COVID-19, so Rock could not be with us tonight. I will be here doing it solo, so we might do a little bit shorter show, but we'll talk about all the stuff in college football, the games from Saturday, the rankings. We'll take your comments and questions if we have any. I want to start off by showing you the new AP Top 25 poll. There you go. And we will break this down here. Oregon remains number one, received all first place votes. Georgia moves up to number two. Ohio State moves up to number three. You've got the Miami Hurricanes at number four, and I will talk to you, Miami Hurricane fans. Texas Longhorns, number five. Penn State slipped to six. Tennessee State at seven. Indiana moved up to 8 places, y'all. I don't think I've ever in my life seen a top 10 Indiana team. Can't remember it. Cannot remember it. I think you would have to go back to the 1950s to find an Indiana team ranked that high. Unbelievable. BYU stayed perfect during the bye. Congratulations, BYU. And Notre Dame's at number 10 with Alabama Crimson tied at 11. Boise moves up to 12. SMU, after a big win over Pitt, moves up to 13. LSU at 14. After their defeat at South Carolina, Texas A&M slips to 15. Ole Miss absolutely blew out Arkansas. They go to 16. Iowa State, after their fall from grace yesterday, which we'll talk about, they fall to 17. Then you've got the Army Knights, and you've got the Clemson Tigers, which was another one that we need to talk about. Washington State Cougars, Colorado Buffaloes, Kansas State Wildcats, Pittsburgh Panthers, Vanderbilt Commodores. Yes, Vanderbilt is in the top 25. Vanderbilt and Indiana in the same top 25. Find me when that's ever happened. I would be very interested to figure out when that's ever happened. And then round it out with Louisville, who got a big win this week. All right, so let's break down this week's game action. We're going to talk first about something that was near and dear to my heart. I had a really good weekend in sports this weekend. Ohio State managed to beat Penn State, and today I went and saw the Cincinnati Bengals, and they absolutely dominated the Las Vegas Raiders. Since we're playing musical chairs with franchises still. So I was very happy with the game. Will Howard made a couple mistakes. Obviously, the touchdown rolled back as a fumble through the end zone, resulting in a touchback. Absolutely hurt our team. We'd have been up 21 at that point. We ended up getting up 20 with some field goals, thankfully. But I have to thank James Franklin. I said it during the preseason. At some point during the season, James Franklin will have a brain fart on coaching. He will just make a bad call, and it will cost them the game. And thank you, James Franklin. You did that during the Ohio State game. I don't know what that play was that they called on 4th and goal. You got 4 downs within the 3-yard line. You got to make that stuff. Got to make that stuff, Penn State. So it's another tough loss for Penn State. Penn State might have some soul searching to do in this offseason. I think there's some really good things that have happened this season. I think Kotelnicki's the real deal. I think he has a good game plan. Their offensive numbers and production have picked up this season. So good for them, but just another example of James Franklin cannot get it done against the Buckeyes. And I thank him for it. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Let's talk about Oregon, Michigan. This wasn't a really exciting game. Oregon was up 28-10 at half. They ended up finishing 38-17. Oregon's the best team in the country. They just are. And I say that because the current number 2, Georgia, really struggled against Florida here. At halftime, this was 13-6. Um, they did get a late interception that definitely helped them out in the fourth quarter, but Florida was in this game longer than Florida probably should have been in this game. So signs of life from Florida is probably too little, too late for Billy Napier. But Georgia, Carson Beck, um, Carson Beck, boy, he's like that episode of Seinfeld where you've got a two-face. Sometimes Carson Beck looks like an NFL prospect, and sometimes he just looks like a high school uh, football QB out there, just making really bad decisions. So Carson Beck's going to need to clean it up. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about Miami versus Duke. Now, Duke was really in this game. To start out, it was a close game. Um, you know, I think it was separated by 4 points at half. Uh, Here's my problem, Miami fans. And I know Rock's going to come on here next week and absolutely bash me for it. You've got an undefeated top 5 squad. There are empty seats at your stadium. I don't care that it rained an hour beforehand. I don't care what happened on Friday night. You've got a top 5 undefeated college football team, and you can't pack every seat in that stadium. That's unacceptable. That's just simply unacceptable. Even when Ohio State has a down season, they always sell out. I can't understand why Miami fans, unless they're just crestfallen that they think this is a mirage. You got to go out there and support your teams, guys. Jeez. It was a bad look for Miami. Miami fans, you got to do better. This isn't on your team. They put a team together for you. They gave you a good coach. You've got to come out and support them. And that means buying a ticket to the game. Get out there, make a trip of it. Totally unacceptable by them. Pull this down for a second. There we go. Let's get to some of your comments, and then we'll keep cracking down the top 25. Mr. Ed Weiner, good to see you, Mr. Ed. Fear of the Cougars, Houston Cougars, that is. If we win 2 of the last 3 games, we would be bowl eligible. James John Cooper Franklin needs to go. We're going to have to see how the season turns out. Penn State season's not over yet. They can win out, make a strong resume to appear in the college football playoff. If Ohio State slips somewhere along in maybe against Indiana, Penn State has the ability to get into that conference championship game and maybe knock off Oregon. But at the end of the year, they have to ask themselves some questions, because that seems to be a hump James Franklin can't get over. Now, the good news for Penn State is with the new scheduling thing, Penn State's not going to have to play Ohio State every year. So Ohio State might be off the schedule for 1 or 2 years there. Joaquin Morales says, hey, Moan and CFM fam, don't forget to smash that like button. Thank you, Joaquin. Yes, please, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and give a smash to that like button. Leave a comment. We'll read your comment on here. And if you're not a subscriber, by all means, please become a subscriber, because we do shows all week. By the way, before I continue here, I just got a special announcement. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m., we will be doing the Big Ten Mafia show. However, on Tuesday night, we will not be doing a Big 10 Mafia show or a Big 12 Mafia show. That show has been moved to Wednesday due to election night. So we're going to go ahead and move that show to Wednesday this week. So you will be able to see Bomber, you, Daniel. They're all going to be there to discuss the holy war between BYU and Utah, which I can't help not feel excited about, because Utah is absolute butt this season. Antoine Code says, hey, y'all. Hey, Antoine, I hope you're feeling well. Caleb Ramirez is in the house. Let's go. Caleb, I hope your grandfather's feeling well. Daniel Gygax is in the house. Says, hello, everyone. Good to see you, Daniel Gygax. Why not Stu, Virginia? Bob Swinger's in the house. He says, good evening, everyone. Good to see you, Bob. Clint Moses is here. Miracles do happen. Indiana top 10 and SMU Stadium is full. Yeah, but is it full with paying fans or is it full with papered fans? That's the thing you got to remember. Is Will Howard going to cost Ohio State a title? He could, but listen, it's an upgrade over Kyle McCord. You can't put the two side by side. I mean, it's an upgrade, and we've got upgrades behind them. I think that Julian Sand and Aaron Noland are upgrades over Devin Brown. Not this is from Caleb Ramirez. Not that I necessarily want them to, but maybe Penn State this offseason look at SMU's head coach, see if they can get him. Well, SMU's probably got the money to keep him. Again, if Penn State can make the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game, you they'd probably there's probably still going to be a high seed in the playoffs, even with an at large. So they'll probably get to host a game in Happy Valley. Uh, I'm sure they're hoping it'll be a night game and they will have whiteout conditions during it. So Penn State still has a shot. Penn State season is not over. A loss does not mean your season is over anymore. Lots of one-loss teams. We got a one-loss team in the top three, guys. 2 one-loss teams in the top three. They should sell out, but it's Duke. I hear you. It's Duke, but there was a lot of stuff on the line there. Manny Diaz and his homecoming to Miami. You're undefeated in the ACC. I don't know. I don't know. There can't be that much stuff to do in Miami on a Saturday. I get it. It's Miami, but it's not like I could understand if the Heat were playing at the exact time. I don't know. I don't know. I guess you're probably right. There's a lot of better things to do in Miami. But if you're a Hurricane fan, get out there and support your team. Come on. Antoine Code's quarterback play for the most part everywhere has not been great this year. There's been a few exceptions. That's true. Dylan Gabriel, slow start, but he has come up. He's doing very, very good. Nathan Campbell says hi. So we got through all those. And let's get back to talking about some of the games from this weekend. Tennessee went into, or they were at home, and they were able to knock off Kentucky. That was a tough matchup for them. Kentucky was ahead in this game at half. They were up 10-7. Tennessee came out of the scored 14 unanswered points in the third quarter, went ahead and scored another point in the fourth, 7 points in the fourth quarter, just to make it even further. Kentucky drops another one. Kentucky, Mark Stoops. I know they really want to keep him, but he's another one that's having some trouble. Now, for my shocker of the day, Texas A&M rolled into South Carolina and got blown out 44-20. Number 10, Texas A&M rolled into South Carolina and got blown out 44-20. Not only did they get blown out 44-20, they were held to 0 points in the second half. 0. I don't know. Last week, big win over LSU, come from behind victory. Were they just overlooking the Gamecocks? I don't know. I really don't have an explanation for the way they played. They played probably the worst game I've seen them play since the Notre Dame game. Moving into the Big 12, I told you guys to look for this on Friday. Don't be shocked if Texas Tech goes in there and pulls off the upset. Texas Tech goes in there and pulls off the upset. Iowa State undefeated, no more. 1 point margin of victory, but 1 point is all you need to win. Congratulations to the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Then we had Louisville at Clemson. Here's another one. On Friday, I told you Clemson has covered almost every game they've played in this season with the exception of Georgia. They did not cover. They did worse than not covering. They lost by 10-plus points at home to 6-3 Louisville. Now, Louisville's top 25 now. They're a ranked team. But the way Miami was able to handle Louisville at that end of that game, this ACC race is going to be something, guys. Because Miami's at the top of that. I don't know that you're going to get a second ACC team in this year. And I'm excluding Notre Dame as an ACC team. Indiana traveled up to East Lansing, spotted Michigan State 10 points, and then dropped 47 unanswered. Big win for the Indiana Hoosiers. Indiana, a top 10 team for the first time since, I don't know, recorded history. 9-0 matches their best start ever as a program. It'd be really interesting to see if they can get that up to 10-0. It'd be a big win for them. Houston, this is what Mr. Ed Wayner was talking about. Kansas State rolled into Houston, number 17. I believe they were 11.5-point favorites, if I have that right. And Houston ended up beating them 24-19. Scored 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Big win for the Houston Cougars. Congratulations, Houston Cougars. The Big 12 is looking like another one of those conferences where we might be only seeing one team get in. BYU looks to be head and shoulders the best team in that conference. Beyond that, I don't. Colorado? No, I don't know. Iowa State's beatable. UCF should have beat them. They didn't. Texas Tech did beat them. So, be interesting to see. In a matchup between SEC schools, another undefeated one, or ACC schools, excuse me. Another undefeated team went down. SMU trampled Pittsburgh. Now, this was at SMU. The stadium was full. I don't know if they were exactly full, but they were full. Whether the tickets were papered or not, they got people to sit in the seats. Congratulations, SMU. You knocked off Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh has been, and people were complaining last week that Pittsburgh was ranked too low, being undefeated. This is why. Pittsburgh hadn't beat anybody. And then the people they did beat, they did not look good beating them. So they won a lot of ugly contests they should have won pretty. And they got blown out when they played a team with real talent, which is what SMU is. So congratulations to SMU. You have the inside track to play against Miami in the ACC championship game, which might be an actually really good game. But if Miami wins that game, I don't think you're getting another ACC team in the college football playoff. Number 19, Ole Miss blew the wheels off of Arkansas, 63-31. They did not slow down, guys. Came out in the third quarter, dropped 21 points, and scored another touchdown on top of it. Just absolutely blew the doors off. If you're watching Jamie Thornton, I apologize that Arkansas got beat that bad. Army remains perfect, 20-3 over the Air Force Academy. Congratulations to Army. Looking forward to your game against Notre Dame to see if you can continue that great streak and round out our top 25 games. Greg Pfluger's Minnesota Golden Gophers, for the first time in history, have a win over Burt Bielema. Coach Burt has been defeated by Minnesota for the first time in his career. Congratulations to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Very happy for you guys. Minnesota and Illinois both are 6-3 right now. Both are bowl eligible, but I'm sure they want to increase the quality of that bowl that they're going to. I want to talk a little bit at something. 12 this Tuesday, we get the first rankings of the 12-team college football playoff. That's a very great thing. It's very great. Also, we get an end to election ads. I have sat through so many goddamn election ads this season. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. They should ban political advertising on television. It's just the way it should be. I shouldn't have to watch a football game, get to watch 3 minutes of football, and watch 7 minutes of politicians yammering, telling me they need my vote. This one's the right one, and that one's the wrong one. Shut up. Stay off my TV. You can advertise beer. You can advertise food. You can advertise cars that I still don't know who gets a car for Christmas, but you can advertise it. Just don't advertise politics to me, please. Please, please, please. I know television stations love it. Reap in that money. Not for me. It's just not for me, guys. To just leave that there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's my rant for the day. I can't even begin to describe you how tired of political ads. All right, let's get to some more of your comments here. The Big Lubbock's in the house. Hello. Big win, Big Lubbock. Congratulations. If you watched the show on Friday, I semi-predicted it. I said, don't be shocked. It was Halloween party weekend in Miami. Miami is synonymous for one thing, and it don't make you tired. Congrats on the Buckeyes win, Moan. Well, I had nothing to do with it, but I will take your kudos anyway, Illini Ted. Sorry for your loss against Minnesota. Bert's still a good coach, but he now has one against him from Minnesota in the records book. Yes, Prime comes to Lubbock this Saturday and is on Big Noon. Big Noon kickoff will be in Lubbock, Texas this Saturday. The noon game is going to be Purdue at Ohio State because I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Ohio State takes it easy on them. Maybe Ohio State just bull rushes them. We'll see. Purdue is quite possibly the worst team in the Power Four this year. It's really bad. Walters needs to be fired now, as far as I'm concerned. Vandy is the champions of the state of Alabama. That's true. They've got wins over the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers. But they still have to beat UAB Birmingham. So, huge win for Ohio State and Ryan Day. Congratulations, Mona Vision. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Tony Washington. Big win for Minnesota. Congratulations to PJ Fleck. Congratulations to the Minnesota Golden Gophers for getting that big Burt off your back. How far is A&M's fall? I believe they fell to 15, so that's 5 spots. But what hurts them more is how it's going to affect them potentially getting into the college football playoff, because that's a bad loss. You go in and face an unranked, and I'm not saying anything negative about South Carolina. Don't get that twisted. But it's a bad look when you go in there and lose to South Carolina and don't score a single point in the second half. Does not look well on your team. But I do think they have the right guy. Tony or Elko is the right coach. So I do think they have the right guy. Congrats to Tony. Yep. Congrats to the Golden Gophers. Miami was number 5 in the country playing at home and had 30K empty seats. Very sad. Yes, I discussed this at the beginning of the show if you didn't catch it early on, Tony. And I'm sure Rocket Rant is going to be on here next Sunday when he recovers from the COVID and probably lecture me about this. It was raining an hour beforehand. There was rain, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. You're number 5 team in the country. You got an undefeated squad heading into week 10. You're playing your former coach, Manny Diaz. You've got a fantastic team. Duke has won some games. Now, granted, they're Duke. I get it. You're not playing Florida State, but you still should sell that out. Fans should still be out there supporting that team. If I was a Miami Hurricane, you want to go out there and play for some people. And if you go and you're playing such great football and you look in the stands and people won't even come out to support you, I get it. Hey, Mo, and you solo penalties and sloppy play deserve a loss. It's where you go from here that matters. There you go. That's a good way to look at it. Stormy Cyclone. Again, I thought on Friday that Texas Tech might move in there and get a sneaky upset, and they did. I'm actually really surprised Texas Tech came back with that last drive. I thought when Iowa State went up there towards the end, I said, well, Iowa State avoided another one. Congratulations to Iowa State. And then Joey McGuire and the Texas Tech Red Raiders, they showed some grit there at the end. They made some plays when they needed to make them, got some chunk plays out there, and they were able to score. Congratulations to them. Cignetti is going to be big coach of the year. Cignetti needs to be AP coach of the year. Hey, if they don't win another game, Cignetti needs to be AP Coach of the Year. Nobody expected him to go into Indiana. Now, they expected Indiana to be better. Nobody expected them to go 9-0 through week 10. Nobody expected Indiana to be in the top 10 at all this season. Again, I'm going to do some research after the show. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time tonight. Like I said, I went to Cincinnati for the game, but I'm going to do some research. I'm going to figure out the last time Indiana was ranked in the top 10. I think it's probably going to be the 1956 season. Was Clemson a bunch of actual paper tigers? It appears so. They did not play well. They played bad. They looked bad. And they're on the outside looking in. And I know everybody was big on Dabo saying Dabo's coming back. Dabo ain't got it. I don't know. It might be time to move on from Dabo, and I know he's done a lot for the program. Texas Tech is 3-0 against Iowa State last 3 meetings, and each of those 3 victories was Texas Tech's 6th victory of the season. Okay. For any numerologists out there, that's pretty cool. Are WVU fans thinking in retrospect they should have hired him a long time ago before he got a major job? He is a mountain man, I think. Cignetti's played I think he did. He started in West Virginia. Not at West Virginia, but I think his dad was a coach in West Virginia. Tired of hearing about how terrible all of these politicians are, Moen. I'm with you. I have had it. I really have. Even YouTube TV, you can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. YouTube TV, usually they won't broadcast a certain set of ads because of contractual reasons, and they'll post their own ads. Even their ads are political ads. It's like, geez, get away from these politics. Sick of it. Cignetti was at James Madison at the time. His dad was the head coach from 76 to 79. There you go. Hummus. Look at this. Earl Carr. Been a member for 16 months. Woo! What should we hear here? I don't have it down. Give you a little applause, Earl Carr. That applause was sponsored by Friends of Earl Carr. Thank you, Earl Carr, for being a member. It means the world to us. Bob Swinger says, Moen, I love Durant. Yeah. Can't wait for election to be over. Agree, Moen. Yeah. Purdue's only win is against FCS Indiana State, I think. Yeah, I believe it was an FCS team. It was either an FCS or a group of 5 team. Just terrible football team. Terrible. Walter should be ashamed. Walter should actually resign the job, but I'm sure he wants to keep that payday. So, Daniel Gax thinks if Cignetti was at WVU, I doubt things would change. Well, if Indiana is any bellwether for how Kirk Cignetti can coach and recruit in the big leagues, I think you'd be doing all right. The biggest winners in the Big 12 this weekend was the bye, BYU and Colorado, 100%. You can't lose when you're on a bye week unless somebody gets injured. Has there been any more coaching hirings? Not that I know of. The last movement I think we saw was the Rice coach being fired. West Virginia's defensive coordinator was fired. If you can turn around Indiana in 1 year, you could work wonders at WVU. The cupboard was less bare, and the NIL was probably 7 or no. The NIL at Indiana was below what West Virginia was at. Washington at Penn State for the whiteout game, relegated to Peacock. Lions fans are salty. Well, what are you going to do? We've got a contract. We got to play that one Peacock game a year. You guys just had national broadcast. I know you weren't happy that it was at 12 noon. I was completely fine with it. I prefer 12 noon games. Uh, I like having my heart break early in the afternoon. It's harder at night when you got to deal with the loss. What do you think about the GCU to the Mountain West? I think the new Pac-12 made a major mistake when they only took 6 schools from the Mountain West. They should have added UNLV. That should have been one from the start. And you could have picked the other one. I think they eventually ended up with Utah State. Congratulations. But yeah, Pac-12 really munching that whole thing. I can't foresee Indiana finishing worse than 11-1 or 11-2 with a loss in the Big Championship. Sounds like a playoff team to me. Well, Indiana does yet have to play Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue, which, oh God, they could set their starters against Purdue. But they're actually at Michigan. And Michigan or no, I think they get Michigan and Bloomington, excuse me. They get Michigan in Bloomington. Michigan are underdogs to Indiana for the first time in like since the 1940s, I think is what they said. It's unbelievable what Signetti's done with that school. Being your flying solo tonight, you deserve a Georgia Tech moment. Thank you, sir. I will gladly partake. A little of the Northern Harvest rye there from Crown Royal. I will have to make a re-up here at some point this week. I don't think they should move on from Dabo unless they have someone really great lined up. I mean, where they are now is where they were before the glory days. Don't want to end up like Nebraska. I get you, but you don't want to end up like Iowa either. Now, I know Iowa won big this weekend against Wisconsin, but it's been years of we can't do any better than Ferentz, so let's not try. And I think that's left the Iowa program stuck in permanent neutral. Do you think the settlement has slowed teams from firing coaches? Not sure why Walters is still there. I think they're waiting till the end of the season because of money reasons. I don't know what the Purdue booster situation is. I know if you've got a degree from Purdue, you should have no trouble finding a job and a good paying one at that. It's one of the premier engineering schools in the United States of America, but I don't know how their booster situation is set up. So I don't know if the boosters are willing to pay for a buyout. He'll definitely be fired at the end of this year. I haven't seen anything in the first 2 seasons that warrants him getting a 3rd season. He was the wrong hire at the time, and I think he's gone. Get an offensive coach in there. Purdue. Offense. Is there a 1-game minimum for Big Ten teams on the big network? Now they're always, well, I think it used to be 2 games per year on the Big Ten network, but a lot of teams would get it by, being at. So Ohio State would host a game on the Big Ten network, like Ohio State at Akron, or Akron at Ohio State, and then they'd get by with their second one would be in like Ohio State at Indiana. Obviously, that Indiana-Ohio State game is probably going to be pretty highly rated. So I don't think they'll be doing that one this year. Indiana controls their own destiny to get to the conference championship game, but so does Ohio State. Yeah. And that game comes right up before the game. So Ohio State can't afford to overlook Indiana this year. They're going to be coming into the horseshoe, all cylinders firing. So got to get your that game will be a sellout at the shoe. And I think that game goes into the 4th quarter. I think Indiana's a really good team. Are you still hearing about possible movement on the 8-pack team this month? What I've heard probably won't generate a lot of buzz, but there's a certain school in California named Sacramento State that has come up with in excess of 50 million to improve their stadium and facilities, and they are the most likely eighth member of the Pac-12. Sorry, Pac-12. I know you wanted some. I know you hoped Memphis and Tulane and USF were all going to rethink it and jump over. They're not. They're not. It's going to be Sacramento State. So, ooh, what is my 12-team projection prior to Tuesday? Let's see. I've got Ohio State representing the Big Ten as the number 1 seed. I'll go ahead and say it. I'm a homer. I think Ohio State wins out, plays Oregon in the conference championship game at Lucas Oil Stadium. I think it's a much closer game. Well, not closer. It was a 1-point victory. I think Ohio State competes much better. I think the defense the last 2 weeks has really shown up a lot more since that Oregon defeat. So I think defensively they'll match up a little better with them. I think the new offensive line is fantastic. I was really impressed with what they did on the offensive line. Congratulations to Justin Fry. I was calling to fire you on Friday. This week I want to give you an extension, but I'll wait to see how you recruit in the offseason. I like Ohio State as the number 1 seed. I like Georgia as the number 2 seed. I like Miami as the number 3 seed. And I like BYU as the number 4 seed. Up at number 5, Penn State. I'm going to give Penn State number 5. Tennessee number 6. Notre Dame number 7. Assuming Indiana finishes with only 1 loss and it's to Ohio State, I will give them 8. Alabama 9. Assuming SMU finishes with only 2 losses and one of them is to ACC champion Miami and the other one is to undefeated Big 12 champion BYU, I would put them up there at 10, 11. Then you got Boise State in there. I'd put Boise State around that 11, 12 spot. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You're going to see some brand left out, probably LSU, and they're going to be upset about it. But Ole Miss has got a long way to go, too. Ole Miss really needs to do a lot of work to get themselves back into the playoff picture because they're a really good team. You can't play a bad game this year in the SEC. I mean, it's incredible to me what Nick Saban leaves the SEC. And look, the SEC became a conference about. Oh, you're right. I did forget Oregon in that projection. Yeah, Oregon will be up there top 5, 6, you name it. But yeah, since Nick Saban left the SEC, that conference seems to have a lot more parity. Even Georgia's looked beatable. At times they have been beatable. Alabama beat them. But yeah, you struggle against Florida. And I know Florida's much improved. Lagway, unfortunately, got carted off during that game, but he has brought some life to the Florida Gators. But since who'd have thought Nick Saban leaving the SEC would create so much parity in the SEC? The SEC's been SEC's competitive. I don't know who's going to play in the SEC championship game. Texas and Georgia rematch. I still think Texas gets upset at Texas A&M. Now, of course, if that team that showed up on Saturday for Texas A&M shows up against the Longhorns, they're going to get embarrassed there. They'll be embarrassed in front of their home fans. So they better figure it out quick. What about Army? I think you're only getting 1 G5 in. Unfortunately, I think Army will lose to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's really good. I think Army will have that 1 loss to Notre Dame. I think Boise State gets through with only 1 loss. You can only have one of them in there. I'm picking Boise State. And rightfully so. Their 1 loss would be to an Oregon team that would be playing for the Big Ten Conference Championship. Would be undefeated, probably rolling into conference championship season. I know Becky and Pickles will probably give me shit tomorrow and say they still got to play Washington, but I'm pretty confident that Oregon's going to make it through the rest of the year undefeated. Moen, have you heard about where that Degrassi kid will sign? No idea. How many units are you up or down so far this season? I'm down for the season. I don't want to count, but it's okay to lose a bet. But boy, when you lose a 5-game parlay on one of the games, you hit all 4, and then that 5th one just kills you. And it kills you because it's a team that should cover, just a better football team. Like Iowa State did at UCF. It hurts. It hurts. You get pissed. That Texas Georgia game, the refs picking up that flag allowed Texas a free 7 points. That 7 points made the difference on the over/under. Killed me. Absolutely killed me. I had a 3-leg parlay in that single game. Missed on the under. And I had Georgia on the money line. I took the points with Georgia. And I had the under on the parlay. And that 7 points that basically the refs handed to Texas because their fans threw a tantrum, that screwed up my over/under. So the SEC still owes me $64. Until the SEC gives me my $64 back, I will continue to rail against them. That $64 would not put me up, but that $64 would certainly reduce some of the sting on that loss. Longhorns will be in. We'll see. Again, Texas, first year in the league, has to go to Texas A&M. That rivalry's been put on the back boiler. It's been simmering for a few years now. I think they're both going to bring it in that game, and I think Texas A&M gets the upset. Will they? I don't know. Don't know. Couldn't tell you. Not a prognosticator, but I just got a feeling that this is the year Texas A&M. I think they've been saving it up. They go out there and show Texas who the Texas team in the SEC is. Big 12 championship game, I think, is BYU Colorado. I think Iowa State drops another game. Hate to say it, but Iowa State, just inconsistency. Inconsistency. I'd love to see Iowa State win out, play against BYU in that championship game. I just don't see it happening. I'm pretty sure BYU is probably going to go undefeated through the Big 12 season, and I think they do become the Big 12 champion. I think they beat Colorado in the Big 12 championship game. I don't think a 2-loss Big 12 team can make it into the college football playoffs this year. I just don't. Unless it's a 2-loss conference champion. Yeah, I don't. I think the conference championship games you're going to see are Ohio State's going to play Oregon. I like Ohio State to win out. I think their toughest game is going to be against Indiana. If you just told me at the beginning of the season Ohio State's toughest game, the last 4 games down the road, would be Indiana, I'd have probably laughed in your face. But yeah, so Hummus Hero just checked it. It's still a 2-game minimum for teams on the big network. That puts Ohio State and Northwestern at Wrigley. Is almost certainly on the big network. Yeah. Like I said, there are instances where teams do it by being the home and away team on somebody else. So Ohio State and Indiana, any conference matchup kills 2 birds with 1 stone for each team. So that's a good thing. That should knock them off there. So I'm fine with that being at Wrigley. Honestly, I don't know why Ohio State at Purdue is the big noon kickoff. Let's actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and take a gander at next week's schedule. I'm sure we've got times on all these bad boys. We'll figure out who's playing when in the top 25. Where's week 11? 25. Let's go ahead and I'll share my screen here. We can go through it together, y'all. We go. So scroll function to work. As mentioned, you've got Purdue at Ohio State, 1-7 versus 7-1. 4-1 in the Big Ten versus 0-5 in the Big Ten. I guess of their allotment of games, that probably was the best game for Fox there. I guess. Then you have Miami at Georgia Tech. I'll probably catch a good portion of that Miami Georgia Tech game. I love Ohio State, but that game shouldn't even be close against Purdue. Florida at Texas. Now this is a little bit intriguing. Texas is favored by 21.5. I might, lag ways out, so I'll still take Texas to cover. Ole Miss is at Georgia. This is a big one. This is how Ole Miss can get back in the college football playoff picture. That's a great 3:30 matchup. That'll be a great game. If Georgia plays like they did against Florida, they will not leave Oxford, Mississippi. They won't win with a win. So Carson Beck, you need to make smarter decisions. Underdog Michigan at Indiana. I did not stutter. That is right. At Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, that has been packed with fans since they've been undefeated, with their own fans since they've been undefeated, by the way, Miami. Spread is 14 points. I would take Indiana on the points heavily on that. I think Indiana's going to, if Michigan wants to salvage their season, they could do it here. They could become bowl eligible and salvage somewhat of a season for sure on more, getting a win over a top 10 team, but I just don't see it happening, folks. Iowa State plays Kansas. This is in Kansas City, Missouri at Arrowhead Stadium. Iowa State should win this game. If the Iowa State Cyclones lose this game, they are going to be eliminated from Big 12 championship game and probably the college football playoff. Army goes to North Texas, excuse me. That's at 3:30. Army's favored by 5. Okay. I like Army there. Clemson goes to Virginia Tech. I'm not betting on Clemson again. You've ruined enough. They've been good for me all season up until that game against Virginia. But, yeah, they're playing another Virginia school. Virginia Tech, 3:30 game, Lane Stadium, going to be rocking. I might actually take Virginia Tech in that game. Colorado goes into Texas Tech, 6-2 versus 6-3. Colorado is favored by 3. I think the fans in Lubbock are going to have something to say about that. I think Texas Tech has a very good chance of upsetting the Colorado Buffaloes this week. Very good chance. South Carolina Vanderbilt. That's actually a sneaky good matchup on the SEC network. South Carolina Vanderbilt. That's at Vanderbilt. It's at First Bank Stadium. Vanderbilt's bowl eligible, top 25 team. South Carolina's unranked. Does Pavia have it in him still? We'll see. I like that game. Big Ten Network, Maryland at Oregon. That's a joke. Oregon's going to crush them. Mississippi State at Tennessee. I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter this week, but look up Mississippi State decommit. You can see the kids sitting at a Mississippi State game, watching it all wind down. There's somebody behind him filming. He's writing his decommitment from Mississippi State tweet on his Twitter while the game's going on. 7:30 on NBC, Florida State rolls into Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's going to crush them. So, sorry, Knowles. Not your year. Clearly. Alabama at LSU, another sneaky. This is a good night game. This is really good. Alabama, LSU. That's almost a pick 'em. It's at LSU. I think I might take LSU. Oh, Alabama's favored by 2.5. I'd get points too. I think I would take LSU in the points. On night game, 8 p.m. on Peacock. What the hell? Oh, that's why it's on Peacock, because they've got the Notre Dame Florida State game. That was probably decided before the season started. They probably thought that was a cash money game. They thought that was going to be the top 10 matchup. Washington rolls into Penn State. Washington did get a big win over USC this week, although it wasn't very impressive. Penn State whiteout game. Penn State favored by 13.5. Yeah, take Penn State, guys. Penn State all day. Boise State, Nevada. Boise State's favored by 25.5. I think Genty could probably score that much by himself. Take Boise State. We got Virginia, Pittsburgh. Pitt's favored by 7. I might take Virginia. I might take Virginia in the points. Pitt might win, but I don't know that they win by a touchdown. And then, of course, Bombers game, BYU at Utah. The spread's only BYU 5. You might as well make that spread 15 because I think BYU is going to go in there and roll them. I don't think it's going to be close. Over on the CW network, for those of you who have a CW affiliated with Nexstar Media, Utah State will be playing Washington State. Obviously, I think Washington State wins that one pretty handily. Spread is Washington State 20.5. Washington State should win that one pretty handily. So here's a look at your top 25 games. Where is the Indiana-Ohio State game? It's played at the Horseshoe this year. At the Horseshoe. They get Michigan at home. They get Ohio. They got to go on the road to Ohio State, and then I believe they get Purdue at home. Purdue, which is their rivalry game. Indiana and Purdue is their rivalry. Yeah, Columbus. I'm going to try and get tickets for that one. Good luck. I wish you luck, sir. The ticket prices on that are going to be pretty hefty. One of the things I was complaining about earlier this week is I don't think students should be able to convert their student tickets into general admission. I know for a lot of students that's a big money for them. It helps you get by, but the atmosphere in Ohio Stadium has taken a significant downturn probably the last 3 years. I've seen too many student seats occupied by people who probably aren't students. I don't know a lot of 65-year-old students. There could be, but a lot of people sitting on their hands, not watching the game, not cheering, not making noise. Let's get that atmosphere back there. Now, unlike Miami, we do sell out, so we do have people in the seats. Ohio State set a record last year with 2 million viewers on Big Ten Network when they hosted Minnesota. That game may set a new record. Yeah, we'll see. That very well could. It'd be interesting to see if Michigan actually gives them a run for their money. Because Michigan's probably going to be the best defense they've faced so far. And Michigan's offense, though. See, that's the thing. I don't think Michigan's offense can score enough to keep up. If their defense doesn't make some tremendous plays and get some 3 and outs against Indiana, Indiana's going to be up 21-0. I don't trust Michigan's offense to come back. I don't trust Michigan's offense to score more than 17 points a game. It's just that I don't know. I'm not going to listen. I already see it in the comments. People complaining, "Oh, Ohio State guy running down Michigan." But listen. They got a national championship to take some of that sting off. Does NBC have something going on Saturday night? Why is their game at noon Eastern as well? NBC has the Notre Dame Florida State game. We looked that up. Minnesota also having a good season after a terrible start. Yeah, Mac Brosmere, he looked good. He's turned into a pretty good quarterback for the Golden Gophers. Darius Taylor, still a good running back. Line play's been fantastic on both sides of the line. Very impressive. Like I said, they'd never had a win over a Brett Bielema coach team, and they got one, or excuse me, Bert Bielema. They haven't had a win over a Coach Bert team, and they finally got one. Congratulations to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Yeah, Notre Dame is Saturday night against Florida State. Colorado versus Texas Tech will be a good one. I like Texas Tech. We'll do this again. I'm making a sneaky projection. Texas Tech wins that game in an upset. Penn State, Washington is a better game, but Peacock manages to get some good games too, it seems. Yeah, I think this was all decided before the season. They looked at it and said, well, we'll take Penn State and Washington and put it on Peacock because Florida State Notre Dame is going to be a bigger matchup. And Notre Dame's doing good this year, but Florida State, I don't think that they can make the swap either because I think they have a contractual deal with NBC, Notre Dame and NBC that they have to play X number of primetime games. Alabama versus LSU is a playoff elimination game, absolutely. Two really good SEC games this week. Yeah, I think all the games in the SEC are good. Like I said, Nick Saban leaves and suddenly that conference has parity. Used to be you just have 2-3 dominant teams in the SEC and a bunch of good teams. Now you got a bunch of really good teams. So I don't think anyone could have scripted what has happened to Florida State since the end of last year. Shakespeare could do it, but it would be the saddest tragedy. Yeah, we'll probably be priced out of tickets as usual. That's I get a pair of alumni tickets every year. That's the game I go to. They do let you choose which game you want. Doesn't guarantee you get them. I've never got the game I chose as my first option. So 65-year-old students only happen in Utah. Players are close. Where's the laugh button? That's good, Stormy Cyclone. Yeah, and that Cam Rising had to deal with osteoporosis this year. I agree. Ohio Stadium vibes have been down post-COVID. Yeah, it's not even close. I mean, that stadium used to rock. You get into the third or fourth quarter, that game against Nebraska, man, nobody was cheering. Nobody. It just doesn't look right. And the games I've been to, I've looked at the student section. I see more and more. And look, I get it. When you can flip your seats to general admission and get $800 for a pair and you're a college kid, that buys you beer for a month plus and maybe a little something at the dispensary. It's hard to lecture them and say, don't do that. But I don't know. And I'm the first to admit I've bought seats in the student section before, but if anybody gives me shit, I show them my alumni thing. So, yeah, it's just, I think something needs to happen to just boost the atmosphere in the horseshoe. Just, I don't know if it's just older fans or fans that don't really care. We'll see. Texas Tech defense won't know what hit them. Well, they toppled one unbeaten yesterday, so I'd say Texas Tech's got a chance. Well, most of the big Buckeye games are now noon also, which doesn't help. Noon actually helps you tremendously. If you're a college student, you can go see that game at noon, enjoy the victory, go to a frat party that afternoon, finish it out burning a couch at night. What could be better? Stumbling across up North High Street following a Buckeye victory. It's really amazing to me. A lot of people don't remember this. Any Buckeye fans out there, if you're the same age as I am, remember North High Street on Friday night when they would bring out the chains. There were so many drunks on North High Street. North High Street, for those who don't know, in Columbus at one time was bars. Mean Mr. Mustard was there. Lots of bars, just bars. So they would, they had these concrete like cylinders on the sidewalk, and on Friday nights they would bring out the chains. So you'd see them Friday afternoon about 3:30, 4 o'clock, stringing chains all through those concrete things, and that would basically keep drunks out of North High Street, prevent them from getting hit. So we don't do that anymore downtown. And I don't know. I kind of like the chains. I don't know. Maybe that's just nostalgia hitting me. How do you think the portal will play out with the playoff? Will we see some borderline stick it out, wait for the spring session? I'm guessing non-playoff teams will be decimated. depends on what those kids are after. If you're after playing time, I don't think so. If that's your main priority, playing time, I think you leave in the winter portal. If your main motivation is money, I think you can leave in either. If your motivation is to win a championship, yeah, there's going to be some teams. The guys that want to win a championship are going to go, But again, if they're playing football, I don't fault them for what they're doing. FSU players were told they were victims all off season, so they felt entitled for things to be easy this year. Something to be said about taking the hard work it took for granted. There you go. I don't disagree. That defensive line from Florida State, the first, and I've stopped watching Florida State games, to be honest with you. So I don't even think they did a highlight for them on College Game Day. Yeah, the defensive line was just awful. Not to change the subject, but the Buckeye men's hockey program is 701. What gives? We got that NIL money, dude. We spent $20 million on football. We got another $250,000 to spend on men's hockey. Miami Hurricanes, anyone? Thoughts? I think their fans need to show up and support that team. I never sold my student tickets, but that was so long ago, the value wasn't much anyway, unless it was the game. Yeah, it's just, I get it. Like I said, I'm not trying to take money out of college kids' hands, especially in this economy with inflation and everything. But to the people who go to the games, get off your ass and make some noise. Don't just sit there. I think everybody wants Ohio State to go blow everybody out 77-0. You're going to have tough games in that horseshoe. And when you have tough games is when the Buckeyes need you the most. Get off your ass, make some noise. I expected to be cursed at when mentioning Miami Hurricanes, to be honest, so thank you. No problem, MB. Hey, listen, my co-host who usually hosts, he's had knocked out with COVID this week, but he's a Miami alum and a Miami fan. So nothing but love for the Hurricanes. I just wish your fans would come out. Time for another Georgia Tech, and everyone hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you, Stormy Cyclone, for keeping me on my toes this evening. I do appreciate it, sir. Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech. Purdue fans are rejoicing because college basketball starts tomorrow. Okay, well, Purdue didn't win a national title anytime recently. So, in fact, the Big Ten as a whole hasn't won a title since, I believe, 2002. So, as a whole, the Big Ten Conference needs to really look at itself and decide what it wants to do with basketball. We are a big city. I have a season ticket for Panthers, Dolphins, and go to Heat games. I only go to 2 Canes games a year. Look, I get it. I get there's pro sports teams in Miami. But Miami Hurricanes, man, they're undefeated. They're top 4 now. I mean, come on. Support your team. I get it. They've been down for 2 decades. I understand that. They had that one rare season with the former coach of Georgia. I can't remember his name. Mark Rich. Had that one season with him that they went, I think they started 10-0. But I get it. It's been a downward trend, and I understand that but look, those guys are out there playing their ass off for you. You got to go out and support them. And the fact you go to 2 games a year is at least something. And the excuse I heard on Twitter on Saturday was it was raining for an hour before the game. Sit in the rain. You're in Miami. I mean, the rain in Miami still has to be like 70 degrees. It's not like Midwest rain where it's just cold and hits you in the face. Purdue played in the championship last year. Did they beat them? So did the Iowa women. Did they win? It's not all bad. Well, if we're the conference of runner-ups, but I don't think we're the conference of runner-ups. We're the Big Ten. Got more football national titles than any other conference. Some of them came well before I was born. Some of them came before Mr. Edison invented his fancy light bulb. But most titles in football. All right, y'all. I think I'm going to wrap this up. Short show this week again. Rock and Rant's watching. Even if you're watching on demand, Rock and Rant furiously typing in a Twitter DM how I'm wrong about Miami. Get well. Rest up, dude. We need to see you next Sunday here on Mowing After Dark. Tomorrow at 8, the Big Ten Mafia show with myself, Sergeant Pickles, and Becky Go Huskies. We'll break down all the action from Big Ten, Week 10, and we'll look towards Week 11. We'll go a little more in depth on our previews there. And then on Wednesday, the Big 12 Mafia show is moving to Wednesday this week to account for election night. No more political ads. No more political ads. Yeah, we're going to talk about Nebraska, UCLA tomorrow, Stormy Cyclone. So you might want to tune in live to that and or check it out on demand. Otherwise, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know I had some stiff competition this week, but I thank you all for coming in and helping me. Made flying solo, flying for an hour. Seemed easy as pie. So thank you all very much. Stormy Cyclone didn't mention it, but I'll give you one more Georgia Tech. And I will wish you all a good evening and peace out.